The Uhuru Academy overall is an amazing school from the teacher to the students. It's a place where kids can build their confidence and learn how to write, read, type, all of that good stuff. We learn our history here. We honor our ancestors, so we learn about who we are and where we come from, and I really enjoy this about this school. Um, and like everybody's pretty much saying, it's a safe space, and we can always be able to feel like we can open up to our classmates and our teachers. So that's what I love. I love the environment and that they promote not being afraid to ask for help. Something positive about the Hoover Academy is this is a safe space, and you can be able to say whatever you want to say without being embarrassed. Just like how Amani said, I've been able to I'm sometimes I can be shy talking around people, but y'all have taught me not to be shy and everything. This is a very good school. The part that I love about this is when we do ancestor reverence and African history. I think this is the greatest school I've ever went to because you teach me about my history. And at the other schools, they never taught me one thing about my history. They just taught, the only black people they talked about at my other schools were like Carter G. Woodson, Martin Luther King, and I think that's it. So you guys helped me learn my true history.
Greetings and black excellence. The Uhuru Academy and Conscious Ingenuity have joined forces as we stand firm in our mission to uplift our community with the UACI Summer STEM Camp. This summer, we're on a mission to ignite the passion for STEM learning in our youth, while also embedding a rich African history into the DNA of their educational experience. Now we're inviting you, our dynamic black-owned business community, to be a part of this transformative journey. With your sponsorship, we can provide enriching opportunities for 30 talented youth from throughout the country. We're going to challenge them to unleash their full potential and empower them to shape the future. Let's come together and fuel a generation that will innovate, create, and lead with pride. Join us as a sponsor for the UACI Summer STEM Camp. Your brand will be a beacon of support and community involvement, showing our youth that their dreams are possible and that their community is behind them 100%. Sponsor the UACI Summer STEM Camp today. Invest in their future. Invest in our community. Together, we can make a difference. Peace. Here we go again, telling black youth to stop the violence. But when are we going to stop the violence against black youth? This country enslaved black youth for 300 years, Jim Crow black youth for 100 years after that, crack cocaine and mass incarcerated black youth throughout the 80s and 90s, and decided it was okay for police and the neighborhood watch to murder them in the 2000s. Black youth are the most unappreciated group in America because while all of that was going on, black youth fought in the Civil War, World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan. Black youth led the Civil Rights Movement, Black Power Movement, the Million Man March, and Black Lives Matter. Black youth created the blues, jazz, rock, R&B, gospel, soul, and hip-hop. Where would the NCAA, NBA, MLB, and NFL be without black youth? Incarcerating black youth is so profitable that if they stopped going to jail, it would cripple the economy, because even when black youth fail, somebody makes some money. I hate to see black youth killing each other, but powerful people go out of their way to make sure we can't teach them why they shouldn't kill each other. See, violence ain't black culture. Violence is American culture. Stop the violence against black youth. Baba Amin. It's been a minute. Peace and power, family. Black Power family. How's everybody doing tonight? I want to welcome you to this Monday build with Baba Amin. I am your brother, Baba Amin Ojuok of the Uhuru Academy. Y'all let me know if you can hear me okay in the chat. Right. And peace. I see my boy Ricky Supreme Ross in the house. What's happening, Preem? Y'all make sure that you support Supreme's pull up. Being one of the best catering services you're gonna get out there. You talking about delicious food and professionalism. So shout out to the pull up. Peace to Lucretia. What's going on, Queen? Lady Cree is in the house. Me and Lady Cree go back over almost 30 years, over 30 years. You know what I'm saying? She was actually a part of the very first rites of passage I ever taught in. You know what I'm saying? And now she's a professional and a beautiful, proud mother of two, a wife, and doing her thing. So peace to you, Lady Cree. You know, peace to the Queen Mother is in the house tonight. Peace to the Queen Mother, Miss Debbie Colbert. That's what she is, y'all. She is the Queen Mother, so full of love, big, beautiful family. Wow, just powerful. Man, I know some beautiful black people, you know what I'm saying? Peace to Sister Brandy Olivis, one of our South Carolina family, you know what I'm saying, in the house. Peace to you. Peace to Nubia Morinike, you know what I'm saying? No problem supporting you, y'all. We have a black archaeologist in the chat, you know what I'm saying? And Nubia, feel free to put the link to the contest that you've entered, you know, because not only is she an archaeologist, she's also a chef, and so she's entered the contest. So feel free, Miss Nubia, to put that link in the chat as well, you know. And shout out to Cheryl Irvin and the new Akibalan STEM Academy, powerful African-centered school in Broward County, Florida. And again, new Akibalan, do not hesitate. Put your links in the chat. All right. If you have a black-owned business, please put your link and your contact information in the chat. We can't circulate the dollar if we don't circulate the word. You know what I'm saying? So definitely make sure that you all get that done so we can know where to support you. All right. I also want to, of course, we have to give thanks to the Creator. We have to give thanks to our ancestors for us being here, for the opportunity to be here, for life, for our story, for the ability and the opportunity to improve each and every day. So definitely want to give thanks. I want to thank my beautiful wife and shout out to her and Koyo Ojuok, who puts up with me. All right. But no, she is a great support, a great compliment. Brothers, get you one. You know what I'm saying? She's a great compliment. So I definitely want to shout out to my wife and my beautiful family for allowing me to do the work that I do and supporting me in the work that I do. Speaking of family, let me shout out to our extended family, the Uhuru Academy Village, the Uhuru Academy Nation, right? We want to shout out to UASC International Learning Center in Columbia, South Carolina. I'm telling y'all something, the most beautiful school campus I've ever seen and I've ever been a part of. UASC International, the whole team out there, Iyakiante, Yay, Shay, everybody out there at UASC, salute. You know what I'm saying? We'll be back soon because this Texas heat ain't no punk. You know what I'm saying? Texas heat ain't no joke, man. So yeah, we'll be out there. We hitting 20 first thing in the morning, you know. But we were down here, y'all, celebrating our 13th promotion day in graduation. You know, and it was an honor to be here. Shout out to Level 3 of the Level 3 Entertainment Center or Event Center on Meadowbrook. Beautiful Black-owned event center. They did such a great job. Shout out to Miss Tamika Thompson, who did the decorating for us. They did such a great job for us yesterday and made us feel at home and just gave us the run of the whole place. So definitely have to shout out and showed us so much love on the price as well. So if you're in the DFW area and you want to book an event, definitely check out Level 3 Entertainment or the Level 3 Event Center in Fort Worth. And you know, we're gonna get to the topic in a second, child, but I have so many people to thank and shout out first before we get into what we're going to talk about tonight. I'm not going to keep you long, but hopefully I'll keep you strong. You know what I'm saying? But definitely shout out to Level 3. I also want to shout out to our team at the Uhuru Academy, Miss Haley Lair, Sean Gales, Miss Taylor Slay, and I'm talking about Uhuru Academy online or Uhuru Academy proper now. You know what I'm saying? And everyone else, all of our volunteers, all of our supporters who give each and every month. And you guys, and I'm going to put it up here as well. If you would like to support what we do, support the Uhuru Academy, you can become an Uhuru Academy patron. You can join our patron community at patreon.com/Uhuru Academy. Hey, being a patron has its perks and its benefits. All right. You get exclusive access to Uhuru Academy merch, content that we create, updates on what's going on in the classroom. Let's build a community. Free consultation, free homeschool consultation from yours truly. You know what I'm saying? So you definitely want to show love and become an Uhuru Academy patron. You know, take one of those memberships that you have that you're not using and put it over here on the Uhuru Academy every month. Hulu don't need your money. They ain't got nothing on there. You know what I'm saying? Give us that Hulu money. But go ahead and check out the Patreon channel as well and join the team at the Uhuru Academy. All right. And again, shout out to everyone who came out. Y'all, we had standing room only for our promotion day, our graduation ceremony on yesterday. Standing room only. We had people online as well, people in person. We promoted all of our children. And then at the same time, you know, we also graduated. We have about 8 graduates this year that were ready for the next step, and we were able to celebrate them. And all the families came out, and I mean, you talking about some Black love, some Black unity, and some Black power. We witnessed it yesterday, and my heart is full. And I want to say thank you to everyone who came out. Thank you to the Uhuru Academy parents who are so engaged and so supportive, right? And we tell everyone, y'all, that we are not who we're going to be as a school. We're building our school, right? And shout out to my brother Ken too. He made a post earlier because he came and he supported with a donation yesterday, and we love that, you know. And he said support a real school that's doing real things, and I love that he did that. I love that he made that distinction. But at the same time, I want to point out that there are several real programs out there, powerful programs out there, and no matter what we're doing, you know, whether it's the Uhuru Academy, whether it's Freedom Home Academy, whether it's New Akibalan, UASC International, whether, you know what I'm saying, it's Nation House, irregardless of the program, right? There are no schools, there are no African-centered programs without the people. There are no movements, there are no Black movements without the people, without you, without your support. None of us can do what we do. I don't care how charismatic we are. I don't care how knowledgeable we are. Without the support of the Black community, we can't do what we do. I say. All right. And that's very important for you all to understand. So I don't care how popular that Black leader is. I don't care what platform that so-called Black leader has, right? They can't do what they do without you, right? As Black-owned businesses, right? We can't do what we do without you. That's just a fact. That's a fact. We can't do what we do without the Black community. So shout out to the Black community. right? Y'all know I don't do the whole shaming thing, right? I don't do the whole shaming thing. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to the Black community because you deserve it, right? You deserve it. There's no Malcolm without the Black community. There's no Martin without the Black community. You know what I'm saying? And that's something that we have to understand. So if we look good, it's because you look good. All right. If we're shining, it's because you're shining. Period. You know, period. Okay. Now, one more thing I want to talk about before we get into our topic. And I need your support on this. I need your support on this. All right. Another thing we want to talk about. We want to talk about the Uhuru Academy. And you saw a brief commercial. But I was kind of advertising for sponsors on that commercial. But I want to talk to you about the UACI Summer STEM Camp. It's a partnership that we have with the Conscious Ingenuity Program. So you see it, Uhuru Academy, Conscious Ingenuity, and shout out to Dr. Oya Mayat of Conscious Ingenuity, also of Morgan State University. All right. We've come together for the second year in a row to combine our past with our future, to combine our history, right, with STEM. Okay. And so basically what we do is an online and in-person camp where students will engage in our Sankofa for Success African History curriculum, right? And the Conscious Ingenuity STEM curriculum. So they're going to be learning our history. Then they're going to be learning about the basics of cybersecurity. They're going to be learning about AI, artificial intelligence. They're going to be learning about circuitry and hardware. And it's hands-on, it's project-based. You can go to uhuruacademy.com right now and check out the most powerful camp of the summer, right? The most powerful camp of the summer, empowering young minds. Explore, learn, and grow with the UACI STEM camp. All right. They're also going to be working on their academics, African history, STEM. You got that child in your house that just loves to learn, loves to have fun, loves to be engaged, love to meet new people. This is the camp for them. So visit Uhuru Academy today. We only have 30 slots available and they're filling up fast. Every day I wake up, I'm getting a new registration form. So do this, make this investment in your child's learning. It is a tuition-based program, but we're also developing scholarships. Right? We're developing scholarships. It costs us $400 per student to pull this camp off, right? So we're developing scholarships, though, for those who need it. So look at what you got. Look at what you got going on. Look at your baby and say, you know what? I want to put you on that right road. Because when young people get involved with Uhuru Academy and Conscious Ingenuity, they're also getting new contacts. They're also becoming a part of our village, and they're gaining advocates in the community, right, that they didn't have before. So this is definitely a camp that you want your babies to be involved in. All right. So go check it out. Everything's on the site, the registration form, everything you need. Check out the UACI STEM camp today. All right. So do that. All right. Cool. Hey, gotta do that. Right. We have to let everybody know what's going on. If we don't spread the word, how are you going to know? Right. And so we are very, very excited about the UACI Summer STEM Camp. Ashe? All right. So let's get into what we're going to get into today. And I'm going to bring up a little slide presentation. It's going to be very small, though, a very short presentation that's going to facilitate our conversation. Okay. And let's see. Let me come here. Right. It's a trip when you got to produce and present at the same time. But we got this, though. We got this. Let's see here. Here we go. Boom. Right. So tonight, I wanted to talk to the family about rights versus power. Right. Rights versus power. And this is a book that I'm actually working on. And the purpose of the book is to challenge our thinking. As a people, so we can begin to make sure we're making the right distinction between rights and power. I'm also talking about this because of the narrative to empower us to take more control of the narrative on our story, right? And that's important, family. It's important because when we get out here and we start talking about what we want to do as a people, when we talk about what we want for our children, when we talk about what we want for our community, our frame of reference matters, right? Our perspective matters. Our individual perspectives matter. Our collective perspectives matter. So we have to have these conversations, right? So tonight we're going to talk briefly about rights versus power, defining freedom for Black people in the 21st century. See, we have to revisit these conversations because I don't know. Well, you know what? Maybe I do have to tell you, and let me not assume anything. Our history is lied about in this country. And what we learn about ourselves as Black people is kind of cherry picked and chosen. There are certain aspects of our story that we're taught about in school, and certain aspects of our story that are buried. And it's done intentionally. And it's not really about color, it's about power. You see, if you control a man or a woman's thinking, you control their actions. If you could control a man or a woman's self-image, you could control their actions. You could control their perspectives. If you could control the level at which I show pride in who I am, you control the dynamics of our relationship. And when it comes to Black people in America, our relationship with this country has been something that this government has worked painstakingly to make sure that it controls. We are a class of people. We represent a class of people, and not only Black people, the masses of the people in any capitalist society, the way they think, the way they move, the way they spend is very important to the people in power, because controlling that is how you maintain power. Controlling the way a group of people thinks, right, is how you can say you have a democracy without actually having one. See, I can say we all have choices if I control the menu. You see what I'm saying? You come to my restaurant, I say, you can eat anything you want. And then you pick up the menu, and on the menu, you got burgers, chicken fingers, fries, house salad. That's it. And I tell you, don't go to those other restaurants. They're evil at the other restaurants. You got to eat at this restaurant. Yeah, I mean, I know you say, well, it's only 3 items on the menu. I know, but they only got 1 item over there, and they make everybody eat the same thing. So you have to eat over here. And you feel like you have a choice, because you have a menu with 3 items on it. And you like, whoa, look at all this freedom that I have. I have a right to eat everything on this menu. And if somebody tell me I can't have a hamburger, I'm going to march until I can eat a hamburger. If they tell me I can't have a salad, I'm going to march until I can have a salad. And you're no longer even questioning the menu itself, because now you're just focusing on your right to have what's on that particular menu. And you don't realize that you have the power to add to the menu. You have the power to take away from the menu. Matter of fact, you have the power to walk out of the restaurant. And if you exercise your power to walk out of the restaurant owners are probably going to do what to get you to come back in? Adjust the menu. But if you're stuck just celebrating having the right to have a hamburger, you won't even question the menu. And even if the hamburger starts harming your health, you'll still celebrate being able to eat the hamburger because you remember the days when you couldn't have one. Y'all see where I'm going? Rights versus power in the context of this society, right? Think about this, y'all. Our ancestors had to fight for over 300 years to be declared human. I'm going to say it again.
When our ancestors were brought over here, and some who were already here, when our ancestors were enslaved here in this side of the world, it was, as far as history is concerned, the first time where you had a system of human enslavement where the people who were enslaved were scientifically and politically declared subhuman. I had to let that sink in for a second. So when our ancestors were brought over here, when our ancestors endured enslavement here, they were fighting definitions that people in power adapted. Now definitions that were untrue and definitions that the people in power knew were untrue. But they accepted those definitions and promoted those definitions because they had an agenda, because they didn't need anybody coming in being able to say spiritually, politically, or economically that what they were doing was wrong because the profits were too big. So they found this population of people to exploit, to enslave. But at the same time, they're gaining political power by claiming to be spiritual, by claiming to be represented by God or God's representatives on earth, and holding scriptures that clearly state that you can't do this to other human beings. So what is the motivation? Okay, now we're getting paid. We're powerful. We're building a nation. We're bringing our nation. We're bringing Europe out of the dark ages. And we're doing it at breakneck speed, but we're doing it by violating humanity. So instead of changing the way that they did it, they decided to redefine humanity. And they exercised their power over those definitions in this space. Now, understand, this wasn't universal. They only had the power of that definition in the spaces that they controlled. So in the spaces that they controlled, they redefined humanity as it pertains to people of African descent and declared you subhuman. Therefore, it was not a sin to kidnap you, to enslave you, to rape you, to exploit you. Then they create this construct called race and uses it politically and economically to set up a caste system inside of this nation, in this country, that mirrored in a lot of ways the caste system that they left behind in Europe. Except in this caste system, you got your own caste. You got your own section. You got your own label. Not only were you subhuman, but just in case you were not on a plantation, right? You were also now this thing called Black or Negro. And everyone from Europe became this thing called white. See, this was necessary so your Blackness wouldn't get you, or your humanness, or your ability to have someone with money fall in love with you, get next to you, or whatever. This was used as an apparatus to keep you in a certain space, right? To keep you out of the competition for land, out of the competition for someone's hand in marriage, out of judicial competition, out of political competition, economic competition, all of this to isolate this group of people. Why? Perhaps the so-called founding fathers understood who they were dealing with. And perhaps they understood that if this people knew who they were, there's no way we could subjugate them. But not only will we not be able to subjugate them, we will not be able to maintain power because they're too attractive. They're too charismatic. They're too spiritually inclined. And if we deal with them face to face on an equal level, how could we possibly maintain power? That people may be more of a threat to our power than our own poor people. Does that make sense? So what we've been dealing with in America is a power relationship, not a racial relationship. Yes, race is a key tool. It's a key tool in the maintenance and the structure of power in the United States. But make no mistake that racism is about power. It's not about a true belief in your inferiority. It's not about that. It's not about a true belief in the Negro being subhuman. It's not about that. This relationship is all about power, right? And one thing about power is that power can be used to deny you your basic human rights. But power can also be used to take those rights back. See, having rights is meaningless if you don't have the power to exercise those rights and the power to protect those rights. And when you live in a society where your rights have to be protected because you live in a society where exploitation is legal, when you live in a society where the exploitation of your human rights is legal, where it's basically if you can get away with it, you can do it. If you can figure out a way to do it, you can do it. That's the society that we live in. I know we have rights that are on the books, but answer me this: are we still fighting for our rights? Somebody tell me in the chat: are we still in a fight for our rights, or have all of our human rights been actualized and realized here in America and abroad? I don't think we would have to be in the streets saying Black Lives Matter if all of our rights have been actualized, right? So if you're still in a fight for your rights, if you're still in a position where you say, hey, I know my rights, then now it's time to question our power. When we look at young people being railroaded into the school to prison pipeline and we ain't doing nothing about it, we have to look at our power. When we look at a judicial system that's really based on how much money you have when you go in, when you look at a judicial system that wrongfully imprisons people to this day, based on the fact that they don't have the economics or the know-how or the resources to get out of jail, when they can set up a way to manipulate your rights because you don't have the power to protect your rights, they can give you deferred adjudication or probation that's impossible to get off of. Yeah, you have rights, but you live in a society that will exploit those rights and then monetize that exploitation. So when we're taught our story, we're often taught from the standpoint of fighting for our what? Rights. We got the right to vote. We have the right to bear arms. We have the right to free speech. But when it comes time to exercise those rights, how you define yourself, how you define the world around you, that's what's going to dictate, right? That's what's going to dictate your ability to exercise those rights in a way that actually benefits you. Let's define our terms, all right? Let's define our terms. And let me come over here. And where is my window? Don't be tripping, Baba Amin. Where is my window? You know, I'm using this Mac and I'm getting used to it. Be perfectly honest. All right, let's see. Boom. Did it change? It did. All right, cool. So let's define our terms right quick so we can get a clear understanding the difference between rights and power, right? Now, a right refers to a moral or legal entitlement or privilege that individuals possess. It is a claim or recognition of the freedom to act, think, or behave in a certain way without undue interference or infringement from others or the government. Rights are often considered inherent to individuals by virtue of their humanity, right? When our ancestors were enslaved in this country because our humanity was stripped, that was the main justification for us not having any rights that the government was bound to respect. And not just the government, any other citizen. When you look at the Jim Crow era, with us being declared as second-class citizens. That meant that we had there were certain rights that nobody else were bound to respect. They did not have to respect those rights, and the government did not protect you, you know what I'm saying, when your rights were infringed upon. When Malcolm X was 4 years old, the Ku Klux Klan burned down his house, threw fire bombs in his house while they were in it as children. They burned down his house, and the fire truck didn't come. Later on, the Ku Klux Klan would murder his father, and the police declared it a suicide when it was an obvious homicide. Because in that situation, the government, the state, the city, the citizens had the power to deny the rights, the human rights of African people, Black people. That doesn't mean they didn't have those rights. You have the right to freedom. You have the right to say what you want to say. But when you're in a situation where someone has the power to impact the consequences of your actions. Malcolm's father was a Garveyite. He was a Garveyite, and he was helping to organize other Black landowners in the area. They were jealous of Malcolm's father, Mr. Earl Little, because he had a tract of land, right, in an area where they wasn't accustomed to seeing Negroes have land. They did not like his mother, Louise Little, who wrote articles for the Negro World. And they worked tirelessly from the time the Littles got to Lansing, Michigan. They worked tirelessly to burn them out of their home, to violate their what? Their rights. But the Littles, make no mistake, they were exercising their power. And what happens is those in power will often punish those who are not in power for exercising power, if for nothing else, to discourage others from exercising power. Because what they understand is that if enough people exercise their power, then the power will change. The power dynamic will change. If you are holding, let's say you're holding some dogs in a dog pen or a dog kennel, and you go in and one of the dogs, you got 10 dogs, and one of them barks at you. You can check that dog. You better go on somewhere, sit down somewhere. But if you walk in there and 5 out of 10 is barking at you and challenging you, you're gonna handle that a little different, ain't you? You're no longer in control. If you get inside that pen and all 10 of the dogs start growling at you, who's in power now? Not you. You go from popping the dog to now pleading with it. Okay, y'all, come on. Oh, Smoochy. What do you need? You want some extra treats? You want some extra treats? What do you need? What do you need? The power dynamic changes when those who are being oppressed or those who are being held or suppressed begin to exercise their power collectively. Then you go from manipulation and dictation to negotiation. That makes sense, y'all? Let's define power. Let's define power. Power, on the other hand, refers to the ability or capacity to influence or control the behavior of others, events, or circumstances. It involves having control or authority over resources, decision-making, processes, or institutions. Power can be held by individuals, groups, organizations, or governments. Power is the ability or capacity, right? And capacity is important, right? Not because individually you may have the ability to do something, but you may not have the capacity. Like right now in the Uhuru Academy, we have the ability to educate real strong. If it's just me and Mama and Koyo, we could do 40 youth. We have the ability to do that, right? But in order to have the capacity to do 80 youth, to do 800 youth, right? We have to train more teachers, bring in a larger staff. We have to increase our capacity, right? So when we talk about what we want as a people, we have to be honest with ourselves to say, do we have the capacity to exercise that kind of power? And that's how we're often disappointed. That's why we're often disappointed at the results of protests. I'm talking about today now. I'm talking about the 2020s now. That's why we're often, when we're dealing with police brutality or police terrorism, and someone, one of our children, like a Tamir Rice, is hurt, and we demand justice, and you get none. Right? You don't get justice. Matter of fact, I believe the police officer that killed Tamir Rice is actually working somewhere else as a police officer. Right? When you don't get justice, right? What you've just done, you've exposed, or you've learned about. You look at our capacity. We could be upset at what just happened, but do we have the capacity to bring justice? And that's the challenge each and every time something happens. And that's what I look at. That's what we need to start studying. Those are the questions we have to ask ourselves. What's our capacity? Let's be honest. Is marching going to do it? Let's be honest. Do we have the power to actually pull these people out of office that are in office? When we go down there and we threaten them at City Hall, do we have the capacity to follow through on that threat? And in some places we do, some places we don't. But what's worse, some places we don't, but we think we do. So we waste time, resources, and we implement strategies that don't work. And in some places we do, but we don't know that we do. We don't know we have the capacity, because power is not just physical, it's mental as well. So when you are not empowered mentally, you can be in the majority and still not exercise the fullness of your power. It's kind of like an eagle that thinks he's a chicken. If you raise an eagle amongst the chickens, it's going to be pecking on the ground, even though it has an 8-foot wingspan. He thinks he's a chicken, and he going to do chicken things. But if he ever woke up and realized he was an eagle, he going to run them chickens. Well, he probably going to eat them. And so there are places where we are in the majority, but we act like eagles who think we're chickens. But we could put Black history in all the schools. I mean, it's 7 Black people on a 9-person school board. We could put Black history in all the schools, but wait a minute. We can't do to them what they did to us. You're not doing to them what they did to you. You're just telling the truth. Now, wait a minute. Them folks gonna get upset. You know they're not gonna let us do that. You know they're not gonna let us do that. Y'all have heard Black people say that. You know they're not gonna let us do that. Who is they? Who is us? Now we're talking about power. Power is the ability or capacity to actually affect change, to exert power over others, over circumstances, over events. The power to control the narrative. What happened? The person who win the fight might put some hot sauce on it. Oh man, we had a fight and I drugged that dude all the way down the street. Man, I dominated that dude. Da-da-da-da-da. The person who lost might say, well, it was more like a tie. Perspective. Who controls the narrative? Power is the ability to control the narrative. And when you look at people trying to put our story into the public schools, that's a power play to control the narrative. Like if y'all want to do a power play would be to say, you know what? If it's a predominantly Black school, they need to learn African history. Or a power play might be, let's take the whole world history curriculum and just include Africa, but include our narrative on our story. Let's allow the Chinese to teach their story. Let's allow the Italian to teach their story. They allow the people of Vietnam to teach their story. And then guess what? We're going to teach our story from our perspective. and put it all together. That's a power play. But if you do that, those who benefit from the current unbalanced human story that we learn in school, they're going to lose what? Power, because it's going to impact the circumference of your thinking. And you're going to start walking out expecting to be respected. You're going to walk out seeking power. And it's not that your power will destroy them, it's that your power will make them less obscenely wealthy than they already are, less overdeveloped. You have elite people on this planet and nations that are overdeveloped. They have more than what they can handle responsibly, more than what they could do with. And some of that evidence is how you watch major nations who can't stay out of war. You have so much power and you want to keep it. You have so much greed and you want to maintain it that you can't give up a tract of land without dropping missiles on children. You won't be bankrupt if you share. You just won't be obscenely wealthy if you share. And you go to war to not give that up. And you're willing to manipulate. You're willing to oppress to not give that up. It's a power relationship, power over events, over circumstances. Y'all know there was a time, like look up Bacon's Rebellion. Do y'all know that there was a time in this country where poor white people and black folks was coming together and fighting the rich aristocracy, the oligarchs together? Do y'all know that working class white people got the white status simply to keep them from fighting alongside other groups? They got the white status, but they still got the exploited. They still get exploited, right? I mean, they're coming off of a opioid epidemic that was monetized, funded by the rich. But they still don't like you because at the end of the day, at least they white. At least they have this status symbol where they can go and blend into the larger society. And that's a power relationship. That was an instance after the Bacon Rebellion. What rich white people understood was that, you know what, we're not going to share our wealth with poor whites, but we can share some of this what? Power. So they became the enforcers. Poor whites, the working class whites, became the enforcers of Jim Crow. They were the overseers on the plantation, and they became the enforcers of Jim Crow. This is a power relationship. That's right, John. Don't say the rich telling them, y'all, I like that. Y'all not us, but y'all not them. See, this is a power relationship. Now, where am I going with all of this, right? Where am I going with all of this? When we look at the narrative would dictate to us what to do with our rights. Our ancestors fought hard to be recognized as human beings. Then after achieving somewhat recognition as a human being, the abolishment of slavery, and don't walk around thinking that Abraham Lincoln did that for you. Over 180,000 black people fought in the Civil War. Y'all notice how like in movies like Glory, they just cover one battalion. Over 180,000 black people fought for their freedom in the Civil War. After over 200 years of slavery. Now, if you count the time before it officially became the United States, you're talking over 400 years of slavery. But here you go, fighting for your freedom. The narrative on that has never been over almost 200,000 black people rose up, took arms, and saved the North, who was losing the war. Have you ever heard that narrative? Have you ever heard that narrative? No, because that's the type of narrative that make people think that somebody owe you something. Like, when somebody owe you money, they forget every favor that you ever did for them. When somebody don't want to pay you, how do they treat you when they don't want to pay you? How do they treat you? Oh man, I ain't really need the little funky $50. You should have loaned it to me. You ain't never did nothing for me, man. I don't be asking you for nothing. How they treat you when they owe you, but don't want to pay you? Okay, yeah, man, you loan me that little $100, but what about all them times I did this, this, and this? They start trying to make you feel like, yeah, they might owe you a little something, but it's nothing compared to what you owe them. So like when you start talking about reparations, they start talking about, wait a minute, that's the greatest country in the world. Wait a minute, wait a minute. America enslaved you, but America freed you. Go. You want to go back to Africa? Go. So they start scaring you with all this other stuff to make you say, you know what? Maybe, we don't really need reparations. I'm not gonna push too hard because I don't want to lose what little bit I got. Right? That's how America treats black people. The Democratic Party real good with that, right? Real good. Like, hey, y'all go do something for us. Well, you can't just do something for you. That's like when somebody owe you some money. Say, man, you got to pay me, man. Get in line, bro. Get in line, bro. I got to pay all these other folks, man. I mean, get in line. Remember, power is the ability to manipulate. Power is the ability to control circumstances, to control events. So when Kamala Harris gets on TV and say, well, of course, we can't just do something just exclusively for black people. That wouldn't be fair. And you start thinking, well, you know what? That wouldn't be fair. You can't just do something for us. But if you do something for everybody and then we could take advantage of it, then we'll benefit from it. But why can't something just be done for you? Why are you a distinct group when it comes to experiencing the racism that you've experienced? You're the distinct group when they say black on black crime. Remember, we can all be black when talking about crime. We're a distinct group when it's talking about crime, right? And then they won't make a law that says black people go to jail for drugs, but they will make a law like a Rockefeller drug law. And they'll say, what drug is that black folks are caught up in? Okay, crack. Give the people who smoke crack the hardest sentences. That turns it into a black law. Y'all see how that works? And if a few white folks get caught up in it, so be it. Y'all see how that works? So we get to be black when things are negative, when it's a negative stat, right? We get to be black to say Black Lives Matter and to cling on to other marginalized groups to make their groups stronger. But then when you say, okay, well, we want something exclusively for us, then let's build black. Let's build for black. Let's repair the black community. Oh, we can't just do that for black people. I'll be like, hell, do it for everybody then, but include us. But when the everybody thing comes out, what happens? It's the minority, everybody. The white woman is a part of it. The Asians is a part of it. Everybody's a part of it. And they're more prepared to take advantage of it than you are. So if they say, yes, you know what, this zone right here is going to be zone for minority businesses. And then you go say, all right, I'm black. I got a business. And you go in and you recognize that you got a different kind of education than the other marginalized, so-called marginalized group. Okay, so you're going to need your federal certification and such, 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 and then have you signed with the such and such and such and such. And have you done this, and this? You're like, huh? Nobody told me about that. Well, get to the back of the line until you realize what you need to do to take advantage of this thing that the government has done for you. Then by the time you figure it out, I'm sorry, we don't have any slots left. Because that other group was ready. Because they were receiving an education in their community, preparing them for this opportunity, because this opportunity was planned out 15 years ago. It's been in the works for 15 years, for 10 years. This entitlement has been on the books forever, for a while, but you didn't know that because that's not built into your education. People on your level, we do not prepare you for power. And we give you things knowing that you're not ready for them. And then when you're not ready to take advantage, we turn around and blame you for not wanting it. You wasn't prepared. It's not my fault you wasn't ready. Y'all see how power manipulates and how power works? Well, guess what, Black people? You have power too. Matter of fact, you are very powerful. Matter of fact, you may be the most powerful and influential so-called oppressed people on the planet. Culturally, throughout history, we've moved the needle with our cultural power. Let's start small yet big. How many words have we introduced into the English language? How many words do we come up with that they call slang and stupid at first, and then you look up everybody saying it? I remember when we was young, we started saying chilling. We just chilling. At first, that's stupid. That's slang. That was street talk. Next thing you know, hey, guy, we're chilling. They saying it on TV. How many of our artists can travel around the world and you have Black people singing Black music? I mean, other people singing Black music. A lot of times y'all be thinking that and it's a trip how we are because we haven't been taught to value ourselves, right? We haven't been taught to value ourselves. So when you don't value yourself, you don't value what you create, right? Right. And so we'll create a whole genre like the blues, right? We'll create a whole genre like the blues and it'll captivate the world. But because our vision is not really on the world, we're constant creators and we're constantly moving. We discard what we create. The world takes it, monetizes it, right? You think an artist done dropped off the map, but that artist is touring Europe. That artist is touring Japan. Tone Loc, God bless his soul. Remember him? Funky Cold Medina. Y'all know he was touring the world like for the rest of his life off of a couple of hits. You go to a blues show, a lot of times you'll find all white people there. Now the blues making a comeback though. Shout out to King George. Even hip hop, we created it. It's rejected by the larger society, so we become ashamed of it. Then you look up and the same folks that shamed you for it, now they're making $1 billion off of it. That's power. You have the power to create it, but somebody's standing there, right? And manipulating your education in a way to where you have the power to create it, but you don't have the power to build anything on top of it. You don't have the power to institutionalize what you create. Look at some of the established Black artists. I remember back in the day in the 90s, we had like a renaissance of Black creativity in the mainstream, right? And a group of artists got together, and I believe Queen Latifah was leading them, right? And they wanted to get into distribution. So you have the creation of the art, right? You have the production of the art. You have the release of the art, but then you also have the distribution of the art. How is this art going to get from one place to another? And this was before internet. This was before YouTube. If you created a musical project, you needed to cut a deal with a distribution company. Well, the same people who had the power that opened the doors for us, and Russell Simmons talks about this, the same people who had the power to open the doors to get us into the production industry, get the music industry, even to own our own record labels, right? They would not share the power of distribution because that's where the money was. Yeah, Death Row, you beefing with Bad Boy, but guess what? I'm distributing both of y'all. So I'm getting money off everybody in the beef. That's a power relationship. What we need to start looking at. I'm sorry, New York, said don't have the power, don't use the power, which is it really? Oh, we have the power. We just need to use the power. And that's where I'm getting. We have to do a real power assessment. Because on every level, you have power. Even enslaved Africans had a measure of power on the plantation. That's why you had to have the strict rules that you had. But even enslaved Africans would often manipulate the so-called slave masters to the point to where they were actually free on the plantation. Like, look, we can't go too much far outside of this, but we got Master John played. Master John gonna do whatever we tell Master John to do. Right? Even in the movie Django, y'all remember Samuel L. Jackson was like, hell, what you gonna do? He talking all slave, but then he went in the room with the so-called slave master and changed his whole voice. Hey man, he know that girl. No, man, this what's going on. Let me tell you what's up. See, he had got into a place, right, where he liked his position on the plantation, right? And he was trusted, and he knew how dumb his so-called slave master was, right? And so he was in the ear of his slave master. Now, I don't like his character. He was a sellout, but he had a measure of what? Power. Even those who were in the field and the revolutionaries, they had power. There were certain things that master had to do to keep them what? Somewhat satisfied, appeased. Because they said, man, if I get them too riled up, they're going to burn down the whole what? They're going to burn down the whole plantation. There's power in that. During Reconstruction in the early 1900s, when Black people amassed over 20 million acres of farmland, that was an exercise in power. Black people came out of slavery determined to be free. And they wasn't fighting to integrate and live next to nobody. They were fighting for freedom where they were. They wanted their own land. We wanted land. We wanted education, because we knew that that's where we would gain the power to protect it. Not to be anti anything, but they knew that look, they were just enslaved for over 300 years. Did you think white folks was walking around happy? Especially in the areas where Black people had been traditionally enslaved? Y'all, we have power in 2023. We just need to use it. The Uhuru Academy is an exercise in power. When I found out in 2009 that in the state of Texas, you could homeschool your children, all homeschools, all private schools were considered equal to public school, and that you didn't have to file anything with the state in order to have a homeschool or a private school, that you could graduate your child from homeschool. All you got to do is withdraw them from public school and check homeschool. I'm like, we have the right to do that? So how do we turn that right into power? What are some problems we're having in education? Oh, high school dropout rate. Do we have a high one, y'all, in our community? Yes, we do. So I have the remedy, though. How do I use this right to exercise power over this situation? We have the right to graduate our children. Oh, I'm going to get ahead of the game. We're going to start a program called Operation Reconnect. And we're going to look for parents who are dealing with a student who school ain't for them. They're not making it in school. They're having issues in school, right? And y'all, not every youth that has issues in school are having those issues because they want to be a gangbanger or a killer. Y'all do know that there are several very intelligent young people who are not committing crimes, but just not excelling in school. Y'all do know that they exist, right? Again, going back to definitions, right? So my definition of young people was different than the so-called stereotypes, because I've been engaged with young people. I've walked the streets. I've always been a teacher, though. I'm a street scholar. So I know that we're dealing with people, not a bunch of thugs, B's, and H's when we walk through the hood. So I'm like, wait a minute. Why is this law on the books in the first place? And what I was told by an educator was that the reason why Texas has such liberal homeschool laws and private school laws is because when the federal government, another powerful entity, required the states to integrate the schools, Texas was a leading state in saying, well, I'm going to give white people the power to pull their children out of school without penalty. and the power to create their own schools through their churches or whatever with their money, considerable money, without penalty, without connection to the state. Because if you're not connected to the state, you're not connected to the feds. But I can't write anymore that this is just for white people. I have to give this power to who? Everybody. But how do you keep the black community from taking advantage of this power? Number one, don't advertise it like that. Number two, make it the narrative. Make the narrative inclusion. Make the narrative that success for the black community is to integrate into white schools. And when that became the success story, when that became the narrative, any story that would support not being integrated into those schools will be rejected by black people themselves, whether they benefit from it or not. Well, now we're over 60 years up from integration. How did it work? How we doing? Number one, we never fully integrated, did we? They took a handful of black folks from a handful of black communities and put them in a handful of white schools. But in most black communities throughout the United States, from the time integration hit to now, those schools are still 75 to 95% black. And what you did was you said, we're going to celebrate these few children going over here. And while we're clapping for that, we're not going to pour any more resources over there. And now we're going to turn black failure into big business, because now we're saying that the white school is better than a black school. So now failure is expected at the black school. So when we don't fund them right, it's not going to be our fault. They're not going to see that. They're just going to see that it's a black school and it's supposed to what? It's supposed to fail. Power is about manipulating events and circumstances. So now you're looking at something that's supposed to fail and you don't know whether to fight for it, get away from it, shun it, or embrace it. Most of us embraced the shun it philosophy, the get away from it philosophy. So when I grew up in the 70s and into the 80s, right, our goal was to get out of the hood. Our goal was to get away from the black community. Success meant getting away from it. Success meant inclusion. Success meant acceptance. But as we're getting away from the black community, we're also getting away from black-owned businesses. Because guess what? The black-owned business didn't move to the white community, did it? No. And you saw the drastic dip. Y'all know that there were more black-owned businesses in 1923 than it is in 2023. That the black dollar circulated in the black community more in 1953 than it does in 2023. Oh, now we make more money now than we ever have before, but we spend it outside of our community now more than we ever have before. And poverty breeds crime, and you cannot heal poverty in a community that don't hold on to its money. A community that does not hold on to its money will not escape poverty. Power is the ability to manipulate a situation. Now we have these rights. What are we going to do with them? Right? So we're having an education crisis, right? Well, we have the right to a decent education. We're having problems protecting our community. Well, we have the right to bear arms and form militias. We have the right to free speech. That means that we have the right to build media. We have rights, but we're not exercising our power, because the way we define our rights dictates how we exercise our power. You have political rights, but you only exercise voting power. In other words, you exercise your right to what? Vote. And every year, they never say you have the power to vote. They say you have the what? Right to vote. They never say you have the power to dictate the politics in your community. They say, no, then you just need to go vote. If you want to make change, what do they tell you to do? To go vote. If you want to make change, they tell you to do what? Go vote. But is voting alone going to change anything? Is voting alone going to change anything? Let's ask ourselves that. We do have the right to vote. And they'll say, your people, your ancestors fought, bled, and died so you can have the right to vote. That's so partially true. That's so manipulative. Your ancestors fought, bled, and died for freedom. They only cared about the vote because it was an instrument of freedom. They're only concerned with the vote if it's going to help them achieve, maintain, and protect their what? Freedoms. And if who you vote for is not doing that, then they don't get your what? Your vote. But how can you protect the freedom if you don't know what freedom is? If you're not having constant conversations about what is freedom for Black people, what does freedom look like for us? And we have to do it as a group because we have been declared a group. And we are a group. We do come from common ancestors. We do have a culture of our own. We have a language of our own. It's been labeled inferior, but it's really not. It's really irresistible. Everyone wants to talk like you, walk like you, sing like you, look like you. So how do we define freedom? What does that look like for us, right? They say in this country you have the right to free speech. Then that means you have the power to own, operate, manipulate, and distribute your own media. That means you have the power to control the narrative. That comes with the freedom of speech. But when you have an inferiority complex, right? You define your power based upon what those who you feel are superior to you, right? Based on what they say and what makes them comfortable. So they'll say, yeah, you can speak, but don't say that because that's going to make that group upset. Don't say this because that's going to mess up my money. So you have artists and athletes who come out and say, hey, I can't say everything because that's going to mess with the bottom line. I know the NBA was happy that the George Floyd thing happened during the bubble season, during COVID, because them brothers out there wearing freedom of speech, wearing stuff all on their uniforms, had stuff on the court, and they did it in the bubble. They didn't have to go city to city with it because things had shut down. That was probably the furthest you've ever seen a sports league go. But look at their staff. The NBA's employees is what, 80% Black. So they had to do something. There's power in that. We have that same type of power within our communities. But we need to calm down. Stop just thinking about exercising the right to vote and start thinking about what we can do to give our vote more power. What are some things we can do to make our vote more of a threat to the status quo? Then we start having conversations like maybe we should migrate into certain areas just to take over politically. Then you start having conversations like, you know what, let's groom our own leaders inside the neighborhood and put in power who we want in power locally, where it don't take $1 million to get in office. Then we start saying stuff like, wait a minute, our vote might be more powerful if it didn't belong to any party. If our vote didn't belong to any party, in every election, every party had to pander to us to get our vote. Ooh-wee. And see, because the other people are anticipating that. That's why they go in and say, thank you, because we don't teach them political education in school. we can get in power, and we can, whenever we see their voting power getting too big in one area, let's just redraw the maps and put a border right in the middle of the black vote. So we'll split their vote. Now they can't all take control of this community because we've gone in and we've split it into two communities. And see, all those moves can be avoided if we're engaged in the process before the ballot box. If we're learning how local government works before the ballot box. If your social studies class was more than just reading maps, but reading district maps. Yeah, you see what I'm getting at? Because you had a right to free speech. We just not exercising the power. You have a right to bear arms. And I'm not a gun person, but I believe in self-defense. Just because I don't like them don't mean I don't use them. Right? You have about the right to bear arms. What does that mean? That means you also have the power to protect your own community. You have the power to organize militias. There are several independent militias in the United States. There are countries inside of the United States. There are groups that have annexed themselves as their own country inside of the United States. You have the power to do that. You have the right to do it. You have the power to do that. You have the power to build something, and you have the power to defend it. And people say, well, we do that, they're going to wipe us out. That's fear. That's fear. And you know, you have the power to believe in yourself, your creator, your God, your purpose so much. You have the power to believe in it so much that they would have to kill you before they could enslave you. They would have to destroy you before they destroy what you built. But you can't walk around afraid of a they, and then at the same time say you loving a God, love a creator, love the ancestors, believe in a higher power, yet you're afraid of they. You're afraid of the mysterious them. While the mysterious them is sitting back relaxed because like, oh man, we got them to the point where they're not even going to try. They think we don't even have the power to stop them from doing that. But as long as they believe we do, we ain't got nothing to worry about. Y'all remember the Wizard of Oz, how the wizard was on that big old megaphone and sounded real loud, sounded like the wizard was everywhere. But when they finally got to the wizard's house, they saw the wizard was just a little old man behind a screen talking through a megaphone. Now, I'm not saying that Europeans ain't powerful, and I'm sure not saying that the U.S. government is not powerful. The U.S. government has a history of destroying black movements, a history, documented history of destroying black movements. But that does not mean that we don't move. That does not mean that we stop, because even though they have a history of destroying movements, a lot of those movements are still here. The sentiment is still here. The energy is still here. And most importantly, the nature's call is still here for us, telling us no matter what you believe in, whether you're a Black Christian, Muslim, whatever, right? Militant, whatever. There's something in you, in your nature, that's telling you that we can and will and must do better as a people. And you have the right to build something better. And you have the power. You do. You have the power to protect it by any means necessary, not just with guns. We talking spiritual protection. Don't underestimate the power of African spiritual protection. How many of y'all swear prayer got you through? But we not even praying for power. We're praying for them to stop doing something for us. We're praying for their soul. We're praying for the salvation of those who would disrupt us, because we think the key is changing them. You're asking God to change them. You need to be asking God to change you. We have the right to a decent education. That means you have the power to build your own schools, and we have the power to develop our own curriculum. We have the power to design curriculum that shape and mold our children into the adults that we need them to be. We have the power. No one is stopping us from doing that except us. And that's not, people fear that. They understand that they only stop you if they fear the consequences of what would happen if you achieved success. Even Thomas Jefferson wrote centuries ago in the notes of the state of Virginia that there is a fear among the whites that one day the blacks will do to them what they have done to the blacks. That's part of the reason why he said if slavery ever ended, that the races would have to be separated. Because he understood the long-term ramifications of their decisions to dehumanize black people and then create this construct called race. He understood the long-term ramifications. Abraham Lincoln did too. That's why after the Civil War, he brought black leaders into the White House and he offered a proposal for black folks to leave America. Go look it up for yourself. Lincoln's proposal was to set up a black colony in South America because he felt there is no way that you guys could be given equal footing, given the truth, and allowed to become who you naturally be, and white people be safe at the same time. We chose integration. We chose to be here. And do we have a right to this land? Absolutely. Absolutely. But that word absolutely is the word that sparks fear too. Because an absolute right is power over all. An absolute right, an absolute inheritance is inheritance over all. So when you start talking about what does America owe, some people may say America owes America. America owes black people the country. And that would scare people. Well, the elites are going to tell, again, they're enforcers, they're working class enforcers. They want to take over. They're taking over. Y'all, we own less than 1% of the businesses in this country. Yet, when like, for example, Dylan Roof, the white boy who invaded the church in Charleston and killed those 8 people, they said when he was shooting, they were begging him to stop. And he said, I can't because you all are taking over. His motive was that black people were taking over. Do you know that there are white people out there who believe you're taking over America? That there are people out there who believe that? And now what's been attached to you, what's been attached to your name is all kind of liberalism. What's been attached to your name, right? And that's why they have you embrace all the lifestyles and things like that, because what's been attached to your name, to the Christian right, is that what comes with black power, right, is Sodom and Gomorrah. What comes with black power is sexual freedom. What comes with black power, if black people get power, everybody can just do anything and you're going to have a chaotic society. So you think the liberals are doing you a favor by attaching black to everything? Every black is a partner to every group. Every group you feel disrespected, black people down with you too. We have to be careful. We have to have these discussions. That's why I don't conflate our movement with other movements, right? We have to be careful in how we exercise our power. And the fear of a black planet is real. We are a loving people. We are not a people that would be in power, that would dominate and oppress other people. That's not who we are. We are a people who believe in justice. But we might be a people that won't believe in extreme wealth and extreme poverty existing in the same place, and that's a problem. We might be a people that would eradicate homelessness, and that's a problem. We might be a people that would eradicate obesity and people eating unhealthy foods. That's a problem. We might be a people who say that everyone deserves free health care and a living wage. Yo, that's a problem. Because culturally, we lean like that. Culturally, we lean towards wanting everybody to eat. Culturally, we lean like that. And that's a problem to the people who make money off of mass slavery, which incarceration in the United States is slavery. There are people who eat off of homelessness. Huh? There are people who eat because you're not getting a living wage. That means somebody's extremely rich on the other end. They eating. Come on, man. So that type of power. So yes, there's a fear. We have to do a better job of defining what that means for us. We have to do a better job of exercising the power that we have right now in this moment to the best of our ability. We can't start maneuvering and making decisions based on who's going to be upset when we make that decision. That's fear. We have to trust that the universe is going to work with us when we begin to work with the universe, that nature is going to work with us when we begin to work better with nature. We have to want for ourselves what we want for everyone else. And we want it. We are loving people. I mean, other people come into our communities and they set up stores and businesses. We don't burn them down. We patronize those businesses. Ask the Arab community how good the Black community has been to them. Ask the Korean community how good have Black people been to them economically. We just had an Asian store owner in Colombia gun down a little boy, man, a little Black boy, because he thought he stole a water out of the store. He chased him, gunned him down. He tired of Black people stealing. Compare what Black people stole out of your store to your bottom line. Compare what Black people done took out your store to how much money Black people have poured into your store. And you tell me that goddamn bottle of water mattered. Other Asian store owners should have came out and made a definitive statement denouncing what happened. But again, what are their definitions of Black people? And what are they based on? But most importantly, what are our definitions of who we are? The most racist things I hear about Black people are said by Black people. Our problem isn't white supremacy. Our problem is Black inferiority. And it's that belief in our own inferiority that makes it so difficult for us to progress. But the good news is, in spite of all of that, we are progressing at a slower rate than one would like, but progressing just the same. You listening to this right now. So there is hope, but there is work to do. But it's a beautiful work when the people that you're working for are beautiful to you. We have our rights. Great job. We thank the civil rights movement. We thank the Black Power movement too. The civil rights movement taught us about our rights. The Black Power movement taught us about our power. It's time to make some power moves. At the Uhuru Academy, we don't just teach our children that they have rights. We teach them about their power as human beings, their power to manifest, their power to create, the power to build, the power to destroy, the power to control the narrative. With all the technology that we have access to and the mobility that we have today as a people, this global community that we're a part of, we have to start having more discussion. We have to have more discussions about the roles that we want to play in that global community. Black people, you have to make a renewed commitment to learning who you are. And you have to unmarry some of these stereotypes that you wear as a badge because you feel like there's power in accepting negativity rather than folding under it. And I see how you don't want to fold under negativity, but dressing it up and making it look pretty ain't the answer either. Not when you have the power to destroy the negativity and create something new altogether. You don't have to be a nigga. You don't have to redefine it either. You don't have to embrace it and redefine it either. You can, though. You have the power to do that, but you also have the power to create something new. You have the power to embrace something ancient. We have to exercise that power. Sister, you don't have to be a bad bee. You don't have to be a bee at all. You don't have to have a name that's synonymous to a female dog or animal that's in heat. You don't have to have that at all. You don't have to redefine it. You don't have to embrace it. You don't have to embrace these definitions. You can reject these definitions altogether. You define who you are. No one's stopping you. No one's stopping us but us. Black men, black women, we do have more control over our children than we're exercising. Don't let society tell you it's their life. No, that's our life. Don't let society tell you that you need to let them just do what they want to do. No, because the society's giving them the menu. Remember my analogy about the restaurant? Who controls the menu? Black parents. We need to revise the menu together and stand on it together. And black folks, you know you spiritual. Don't walk away from spirituality. Intelligence don't mean you no longer believe in the higher power. Intelligence doesn't mean that you don't believe that you're connected to your ancestral energy that's flowing inside of you. If it works for you, we're throwing the baby out with the bath water. We getting so fancy, so woke, so conscious. We moving so far into right field that we're losing those systems that brought us this far. Don't abandon the system. Go in and take ownership of those spiritual systems and shape them in a way that's going to keep us disciplined, keep us grounded, keep us strong, and push us into the future. Rights versus power. I didn't plan to go this long. Thank y'all for those who hung in there with me. I see you still here with me. You know what I'm saying? Peace to Obafemi, and thank you, Obafemi, for tagging people and all that. This is just something I decided to do. It's my last day in Texas. I just wanted to jump on and give a quick message. I wanted to go for an hour. I went for an hour and a half. It's been a while though, y'all. It's been a while. And I want to create more content, but I got to quit doing these long things because now I got to go slice it up and make little videos and all that kind of stuff out of it. I love you too, brother. You know what I'm saying? Hey, y'all, like and share this video. But start thinking about that. When you make moves, make power moves. Look at your community. If you want to organize something in your community, look and see what y'all have the power to do, and do a realistic assessment on what you have the power to do. Yesterday, we exercised our power to graduate our own children. We're exercising our power to build pipelines. A shout out to Baba Amin Ojuok and the Pipeline to Power program. We're exercising our power to build pipelines to success for our children. That's not saying that the ones in public school can't do great in public school. They can do some great things in public school. We know what the public school is missing. We have to build alternatives. We have to give our people options. Like when they talk about school choice, the Uhuru Academy is a school choice. We are supposed to be a school choice. It's our job to create school choices. It's our job to create choices for our children. If they fall through the cracks, it's our job to catch them. No way around that. And we can keep leaning on self-hate. We can keep leaning on blaming each other, blaming the parents. We could keep on doing that, right? But we're going to keep paying the consequences too. Because you can pretend like your neighbor ain't your problem until their house catch on fire. Then you can still pretend like their house being on fire ain't no problem until the fire spreads to your house. And if you wait until the fire gets to your house, it's too late. The whole block is already on fire. Let's love one another, y'all. Let's embrace one another. We won't be able to embrace humanity until we first properly embrace ourselves. All right. Hit me up on Instagram at the real underscore Baba Amin, on Twitter at the Uhuru Academy, Cash App $ Uhuru Academy, website uhuruacademy.com. Uhuru Academy is also now a licensed 501c3. So when you make your donations, they are tax exempt. They are tax write-off. So go to our Patreon channel and join the Patreon. I'm gonna put that up here one more time. Where my banner is at. Here we go. All right, I'm gonna put that up here one more time. Patreon.com/Uhuru Academy. All right, become a Patreon. Help us continue to create content like this. Help us continue to educate our children. Again, we have Uhuru Academy online. Go to uhuruacademy.com. As a matter of fact, I have it on the screen right now. We have UA Online, our K through 12 private school, enrolling now, but space is limited. So you definitely want to check that out. The most powerful online experience for Black children in the world today. All right, at uhuruacademy.com. So go check that out. We also have Operation Reconnect, our accelerated high school diploma and life success coaching program for people ages 16 and up who've stopped out of school. If you do not have your high school diploma, you need to go to uhuruacademy.com and check out Operation Reconnect. All right. And also, we provide consultation. I do lectures. You can bring Baba Amin in for a lecture. Just again, go to uhuruacademy.com or contact me at one of those social media sites down there. Okay, but get with me. I would love to come in and host a lecture in your city, a workshop if you need teachers trainings. Excuse me, teachers training, grassroots organizational training. Hit us up at the Uhuru Academy. We're going to make something happen. All right. So the school is our nonprofit, uhuruacademy.com. But then we also have Uhuru Academy Education Solutions, LLC. And that's me coming in, or our team coming in and empowering you to do what it is you need to do to turn the education situation around in your community. All right. Hey, I love you. I don't mind telling you. Spread the word. I'm out. Black Power.